Hey everyone, I'm back today, and today we're talking about burnout versus overflow and the real reason hustle keeps us stuck. So, when we think of hustle, there's this cycle of burnout, frustration, exhaustion, mentally, emotionally, physically. And we all know that we cannot pour from an empty cup. And yet people are building, creating, and serving in this state of depletion and to the point of depletion. And oftentimes, people don't stop until they're severely sick and unwell. And that's finally like a wake up call for them to realize like this is not sustainable. This hustle energy might get you some temporary success, but it comes at the cost of your peace, your body, and your connection to source. I'm Rosaly Didonna. I'm a soul alignment coach and mentor. I wanted to create this video to help people understand why hustle is not sustainable and how to shift that um, into overflow, into connection, into being sourced and purified from within. So when you're creating in your life and your business, it becomes effortless and deeply fulfilling. So if you're interested, continue watching because we're going to get into it. I see this so many times with clients. They are very successful, very driven, doing really well in the workplace, and they still feel unfulfilled, unseen, unheard. Um, Joy is missing from their life, and they can't quite pinpoint what's happening. Why don't they feel good? Why do they achieve all this outwardly success and still feel empty inside? And sometimes people just hustle more, thinking if I just get more, then I'll finally feel fulfilled. That will finally fill this void that I have in my heart. And what's really happening is your soul is speaking to you. God is speaking to you from within and trying to wake you up to the fact that you are out of alignment somehow. And so hustle isn't just about working hard, it's about where you're being sourced from. Because, when you're hustling, the energy is usually fear disguised as ambition. That if you slow down, you'll fall behind. That if you don't keep up, you'll be forgotten, unseen, or you won't prove that you're enough. And so this energy state is really a nervous system pattern rooted in trauma, dressed up as productivity, dressed up as if I can just finally prove my worth to myself and to others, I'll finally feel good about myself. And what people don't realize is even after proving it, even after checking off all the things on their to-do list, there's still this aspect of themselves that feels disconnected. And what happens is when you're in this energy state of hustling and this trauma response trying to like prove and gain love and attention and it puts you into this mode of over control, right? And you want to control the outcome of how people are going to respond to you, what you're going to feel like after. If I just do all these things, then I'll get this, then I'll feel this. And that form of control is really the opposite of trust, right? Of surrender, of flow. And instead, it's rooted in constriction, fear, worry, doubt, because you're trying to control it so much. If you've been feeling drained or anxious or constantly feel like you're chasing the next thing, it's not because you're lazy, it's not because you're unmotivated, it's because you've been operating from this place of force instead of divine flow. Um, the hustle mindset teaches us that worth is earned and that the more we do, the more we prove that we're valuable. But when you lead from that space, it becomes an energy drain. You're constantly having to prove, you're constantly pouring your energy out into others, hoping to be seen and heard. Um, and when you lead from this space as well, you, instead of thinking you're serving people, it ends up becoming you taking energy. So not you're not only leaking energy, you're also becoming an energy taker. And a lot of people who are, wanting to be of service and really pushing themselves to show up, they might take this and say, I'm trying to serve people, I'm trying to help others. But because you're rooted in this sense, your identity is rooted in lack, you operate in a way where um, unconsciously you don't even realize that you're expecting things from people, whether it's attention or praise or the sale or whatever it might be. You need that to validate you somehow. And in that case, it's not really truly a form of giving, of service, of overflow. um, so you might be making money, signing some clients, hitting certain metrics, but you still don't feel fulfilled. And if you do feel fulfilled, it fades really quickly, because deep down in your heart and your soul, you know that the energy is off. You know that this something's not quite right because alignment cannot be faked. And myself as a mental projector, 6'2" mental projector in human design, I used to be the kind of person that just ignored all of my body signals, right? I was a very anxious person. And I finally, like, yeah, had this decision in my mind thinking, okay, I'm not going to let my anxiety get the best of me. I am just going to brute force, push through, and do the things that I want to do. And, I very much identified as an empathic, heart-centered person, but what I didn't realize was because I was doing all of these things from a state of urgency, lack of um, deep-rooted unworthiness and low self-love and worth, because I had this abandonment wound that I didn't even have. I didn't even realize I was actually being an energy taker. So not only was I draining all of my energy, I was taking energy where I thought I was giving. I was trying to give, but I wasn't purely giving because I hadn't um, returned to my true self. I was still seeing myself as someone who was lacking, who was not whole, who needed others to approve of me or give me permission to feel that love, that gratitude for myself, and that self worth. And that was not sustainable. I learned very quickly, even though it, helped me accomplish certain things that I'm still proud of today, like, finishing school, getting my master's degree, starting in a career and being really successful at it, starting a family, all the things. There came to a point where it wasn't sustainable anymore, and I was burnt out. I was sick. I was not feeling well. I couldn't get out of bed. Was having intrusive thoughts, intense, severe anxiety, and I knew this just wasn't it anymore. And I thought to myself like this, some people say, "Oh, well, you're a new mom and you're just stressed and you're lacking sleep." And I'm like, this cannot be it. Like, this can't just be how we live life for the rest of our lives, right? Tired all the time, drained. Um, but true consistency with what you do in your life, and fulfillment isn't about doing more and pushing more. It's about staying connected to the source that is connected within you, that is you, that is all that is, right? And once I learned how to do that, my life dramatically changed. No more anxiety, um, very pure, sustainable energy where I've been able to just multiply my productivity on heart centered, soul led things that I'm called to do. That is truly an act of sacred service because I've healed myself and returned to my sense of wholeness and the truth of who I am and who we all are. And in that space, I'm truly able to give from my overflow. So again, shifting from burnout to overflow, right? Overflow is the opposite of hustle. And when you think of overflow, like imagine a cup just running over. The cup doesn't really have to do anything. It's just sitting there and all the water's flowing out of it and becomes kind of effortless. And it doesn't mean you're never going to work again in your life. It just means that it's not something that's physically efforting and overexerting and forceful, right? It just becomes this divine flow of energy that sources you to then take the actions that are aligned um, with your soul, with your purpose, with your divine assignment. And it becomes, it's so aligned that it doesn't feel like efforting. It feels um aligned and it feels and the symptom of that is joy, peace, abundance. And it just then that leads you to want to continue it more and deepen that self trust more and allow that flow to come through more. And it just leads to this expansive, abundant, beautiful, peaceful life that I can attest to. Um, it's when your energy becomes you know, connected to God, not your to-do list. Like, you're not it's like God becomes the center of all that you do, and you're sourced from that place. You're sourced from that state of being and that state of awareness that you are connected and one with God, as opposed to connecting your energy to, I have to do this so those people will like me. I have to do this so I can check something off my list. I have to do this so I can prove to my family that I'm worthy and that I did it. So one is we're connecting our energy to an very limitless, sustainable, pure, loving energy, and the other is linked to lack, fear, burnout, anxiety, and worry. So, which one are you plugging into? When you create from overflow, that work that you do feeds you, it sources you, it purifies you from within. So you operate feeling light and free and full and whole, and it doesn't drain you. And you give from the again from the overflow of your full cup. Um, and that energy, people can feel that energy. There's this resonance to that in your field, and it draws opportunities to you. It draws the right people to you. It draws your soul line tribe to you because you're just operating purely and authentically as yourself. And you no longer need to like overexert yourself to get clients, to look for certain opportunities. It's just they're just coming to you, and it doesn't feel like the state of performance where you feel like, when you think of a performer on stage, um they're not thinking think of a performer who's like, oh my gosh, I have to memorize the lines, I don't want to mess up and this and that, as opposed to somebody who just is themselves, right? You become that. You just start radiating your authentic truth, and you just that energy that's flowing through you is like an emanating light that people can sense. That shifts all the your experience and and the field around you. So for example, lately I've noticed the more and more I do this work, the easier and more effortlessly opportunities come to me. And just recently, I was thinking of finding a new studio for where I host my sound baths. And I thought I was gonna be at this certain studio that looked really good, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be that one. And it just didn't work out. And I trusted God, and I was like, you know what? It just was that one wasn't meant to be. And I'm grateful for to see something other than where I was at, and I know something better is gonna come. And soon after that, like not even a week later, maybe a couple of days later, another opportunity came that was in the same location. Um, you know, Lower rate, but more flexibility, more access to the space, and just really close home. Like it was just perfect for me. And so I'm gonna go see that space on Monday. And I just thought, wow, it's like When you remove all the obstacles to that divine flow through you, things just become so effortless and things magnetize and come into your life um, very easily. And another example of this recently is I decided, just on Monday that I wanted to possibly do more speaking engagements. And soon after that, I was getting messages from people inviting me to be in certain conferences to share my story. And one that came through, I was like, okay, that's not aligned because I'm not going to pay to speak. So again, when your sacred no is a signal to the universe, like, okay, I'm going to shift and bring something else that's more in alignment into your space and your field. And soon, quickly after that, I found another one. I submitted my application. They very quickly moved me to the next step, and I'm going to have my interview with them soon to see like if I'll be speaking at that conference. And it just shows like how quickly things can change when we're living in alignment with your divine um, assignment. And so, to break it down practically, start your day by, going back to that topic of burnout versus overflow. Start your day by aligning your energy before taking action and ask, am I moving from authenticity, devotion, wholeness, love, acceptance? Or am I operating from pressure, fear, doubt, lack, scarcity, worry, right? We want to create from wholeness because that's the truth of who we are. We are one with all that is. We are whole, we are abundant, we are unconditionally loved and accepted for who we are. When you create from that wholeness instead of the lack, instead of the fear, instead of the scarcity, that becomes your embodiment, right? And whenever you start acting from that place, whatever comes up that's seemingly blocking you from moving that way, that is your assignment. That is your portal to expansion. So, for example, if I wanted to, at the beginning of my business, I wanted to show up online because I knew that was a way to spread my story, my message, which I was being called to do. And so I had this idea of like, okay, I'm going to speak online about my mission, my vision, my story that God has called me to do. Moving from wholeness, I was moving from alignment. And when I act from that place of wholeness, something came up, fear of visibility, worried about what people will think, doubting myself, all these things started to come up. And instead of running from those and thinking this wasn't for me and going back to, um, hiding, I made the active decision to focus on those things and transmute them, alchemize them, and move through those blocks. And through those blocks, on the other side of that is expansion, is more awareness of who you are, deeper embodiment, deeper self trust, expansive flow. And that's what we need to do. So instead of, some people see it the other way where they focus so much on the healing and thinking, what's blocking me and what happened to me a long time ago. And maybe it's this, it's like, lead from the alignment, the action that you are being called to do in your divine assignment, that authentically, purely speaks to your heart. And then when the unwholeness comes up, then it's the time to look at it. Then it's the time to alchemize. Then it's time to transmute, to broaden our awareness, to make those shadows light again and integrate into our wholeness so that we can continue to move in alignment. And the more you practice that, the easier it becomes. Um, and I've reached this place where it's just fun to me now. I'm like, oh, something came up. Like, what does that mean? And how does that reflect on what's happening within me? And it becomes, you begin to see and speak the language of the universe, of the way God is communicating with you. Um, Not just through intuition or senses and things like that, but through the situations and experiences we that come up in our field. Um, and on top of that, let rest become part of your strategy, because if you are um, hustling and moving and going all the time, um, there's some scarcity in there. There's some lack. There's some fear, right? So allow yourself to rest, knowing that nothing good can escape you, knowing that you're in divine timing, knowing that everything's going as exactly as it should, and honoring your rhythms, honoring yourself, and if that's rest in the moment, then rest. Okay, so let me see. Because again, the reminder, you do not have to hustle for what's already yours. We at our highest level are one with all that is. We are eternal. Um, and the moment that you return to that knowing, return to that source, you remember that you don't need to chase anything because you already have it. You already are it. And so the state of overflow isn't a strategy, it's a way of being. It's a frequency. Like I said, it emanates and radiates from you within when you tap into this um, divine connection and divine flow that sources you from within, right? Um, but yeah, if this message resonated and you're ready to shift from burnout to overflow, from fear to faith, I invite you to come join me in the expansion code. It's one-to-one coaching container where I help soul-led leaders who are ready and awakening to their divine purpose. And I teach them how to create from devotion, how to create from overflow instead of hustle, instead of survival, and to learn how to embody that soul wisdom and it to become something on this earth, and for you to experience that and whatever it is you're building in your life, in your business. So just reach out, message me. You can find me on Instagram at the Purifying Place. Um, and I look forward to hearing from you. So thank you so much for watching. I loved this topic. I think it resonates with a lot of people because we are shifting from that hustle culture, right? Boss babe energy, um, boss queen, that kind of stuff, into more goddess energy, um, feminine, but also powerful, and um, overflow versus hustle. You know, it's, I'm sure you've heard those terms already if you haven't before. And I mean, yeah, I'm sure you've heard them already because, a lot of people are talking about this because I think the world is just ready for some change. People are realizing life cannot just be this rat race where we work, 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 and then we die, right? So I hope this video helped you with that. And if you have any questions, just reach out. But I will see you all next time.